Please welcome Charlie Kubal, Faraz Baghernezhad, and Steve Ross to the stage.
Well, hey guys. Let's see. My name's Steve Ross, 3D art director. I've been at Roblox for almost 4 years now, and I've been in video games since 1986, something I probably shouldn't admit to this crew. Today we're going to talk about avatar creation, what's unique to Roblox, and what we're doing to make it easier. Let's see. So, agenda. Right, we just talked about that. I'm going to start with just a very quick, high-level overview of the typical workflows that AAA studios use to make avatars and characters. But to start, just to show of hands, how many people know what PBR is? Almost all of you. Awesome. Okay. For the few who don't, or pretend they don't know, PBR is basically it's a rendering technique to simulate topological details beyond what you can typically portray with game res mesh. PBR, physically based rendering. Right here you can see the character on the left has PBR. The one on the right is just a straight color map. So character creation starts with concept art. I've seen people try to jump right into character design, right into 3D. Please don't do this. It makes it so much harder to actually make changes to a 3D model than 2D sketches. Another point is if you're designing a character, try to keep the design simple. Don't try to smash too many ideas together because you'll end up with something that's mushy and weird and people won't know what they're looking at. The other thing is I actually called out this thing on the right here, this image here. It's a really good image showing a lineup for a team-based shooter. If you happen to be working on one of these, the things that actually make this stand out to me is the differences in size and proportions. Silhouettes are unique, but almost more importantly is the blocks of color high and low. Makes it easy to actually determine who you're facing when you're playing the shooter. The other thing to keep in mind is when you're doing concept art for characters, be kind to the modeler. Don't hide the details. We all love to see characters in dynamic poses. But like with this pose here on the left, like I don't know, if I was a modeler, I wouldn't know what to build in the guy's chest. So the one on the right is better. Essentially, we typically call these turnarounds or orthos. They are front, side, back, straight pose. Be kind to the modeler. All right, so we've got a concept. The next thing we do is the high-res sculpt. These things tend to weigh in at 1 million to 10 million, tens of millions of polys. It's way too much for a game engine. But this is where all the amazing, juicy detail comes from. Next step in the process is something we called retopologizing. It's a big word. Really all it means is you're building game resolution mesh on top of these tens of millions of polys. It's literally drawing on top of that. A couple things to keep in mind is a colleague of mine called these things the sticky outie bits. Essentially, it's the silhouette breaking forms. You want to make sure you capture those in your game resolution mesh because even though PBR will give you all this detail, it won't change the silhouette of the mesh. So make sure you capture that. And here on the left, on the right, you can see the PBR version and the version that's just the game resolution mesh, so you can get a little bit of a hint of the difference there. Then we have this thing called UV unwrapping, which is essentially you've got your game res mesh, and the best way to think about the need for unwrapping UVs is if you've got like imagine a projector projecting a texture or an image onto like a round surface. You know, where the surface is parallel, you're going to see the image. Where it starts to get perpendicular, the image is going to start to stretch. So what we do is we flatten out that geo into just a square space for the texture. What we also do is we're actually trying to maximize the amount of texture space that goes onto this avatar. So the character artist is actually moving these things around, these UV shells around, and trying to maximize the space. So it's kind of a puzzle. So they're moving these things around, rotating them, scaling them, and what we typically try to do is put a texture, like a checkerboard texture, on this thing. So live, you can make sure that all the checkers are about the same size. And you do this because essentially you don't want to end up with a character that's got like really high fidelity textures in some places and really blurry textures in other places. It's terrible, don't do it. All right, texture baking. So this is where you take your game-res mesh, it's UV unwrapped, and we take that high-resolution mesh and bake it down into the textures that PBR uses to simulate all that amazing detail. Now, a couple things to note here is purists will tell you don't put any lighting detail into your color map because it could potentially like fight with any real-time lighting situation the character is moving through. I found that this is not the case. Working on The Sims, we actually baked in all the lighting information, and even though if we baked in like really hot spots and it was different than the lighting in the world, you couldn't tell. It still looked awesome. But the other thing to note is some people on the platform don't actually see PBR. They're on low-end devices, so you need to have that color texture as detailed and tight as you can get. The other thing I want to mention is, there's one thing I forgot to mention in the last slide, is you can actually do PBR without doing the whole sculpt. You can fake it. There's a lot of software programs out there that'll actually take your flat color texture and help you create PBR textures. It doesn't look quite as good, but if you still want that shine across the surface, you can go that route. The other thing I want to point out here is that if you've got to create a really cool avatar design, and you've got a texture artist who can do really amazing, gorgeous, beautiful textures, you can do really cool characters without using PBR. They're not as cool, but you can do it. OK, you've got your model. It's UV unwrapped. You've got your textures, and now it's time to bring it to life. The next thing we do is we actually create a skeleton, essentially a hierarchically linked series of joints. The next thing, so once you got your skeleton, we do this thing called skinning or binding. You may have heard these terms. And essentially all that means is you're telling each point on this mesh which joint affects it and to how much. So you got your skin, your binding, your skeleton. The next thing is a rig. A lot of people, even professionals, will sort of mix up what is a rig, what is a skeleton. They'll conflate the two. Essentially, think about it this way. The skeleton drives the mesh. It's the joints that actually drive all the points. A rig is designed to actually make the animator's lives easier. So essentially, a rig drives the skeleton. A really good example for why an animator would want a rig is think about taking a hand, an open hand, and making a fist. That's essentially 15 joints moving along specific axes. The animator having to go back and forth, make sure all the fingers in the right place. That could take 10 minutes just to make a fist, which is ungodly. So most rigs will actually have a slider that will do this for you. I'm not sure why that video is not playing, but no, it's advancing. Sorry, it should have played a video there. I'm going to go back. Anyway, so a very good rig will actually do a lot of work for the animator. OK, you've got your rig. You've got your character. This thing's not going backwards. OK, now we go. Sorry, guys. Now is it going to play? Right, so this is a really good example of a rig that's really clever, that's actually doing a lot of the work that the animator would want to do, just spatially moving around a control point. OK, so now you've got it rigged. It's time to animate. You animate your character, create some animations, export all this from whatever DCC app you're using, whatever software you're using, bring it into your game engine, and you're kind of done. Except there's a few features that are unique to Roblox that require a bit of extra work. So as a lot of you know, our characters are made out of 15 pieces. You've got to actually cut the character up into those 15 pieces. You've got to cap the pieces, so in case you see them by themselves, you don't see big holes in them. We've got accessories, so you need some joints to actually tell the engine where the joints sit in relation to the rest of the body. And you've got layered clothing, which requires cages, which basically tells the engine how to shrink wrap the clothing around whatever size figure you've got, which is kind of an amazing piece of tech. Then you've got dynamic heads, which is incredibly complicated. 30 to 40 joints per head. You've got fax poses, really complicated, but as you guys have probably heard already today or yesterday, we've got an avatar setup tool that will essentially do all the stuff that's very specific to Roblox for you with essentially just a button press. It's amazing. The results are getting better and better every day. And the artists on the team have been like, wow, I can't believe the engineers actually pulled this off in a year. It's fantastic. One thing to note, I was actually talking to a developer the other day who said they didn't use this. They knew about it, but they didn't use it because they had very specific skinning that they wanted to do on their character. What's super cool is now we know what you've done. If you've done part of this work because you had specific requirements, the software will know that you've done it and only do the parts that you didn't want to do. So that's amazingly cool. And this should have been playing while I was talking, but so this avatar auto setup, I think that's me. So now Charlie and Faraz will talk about in-game, in-experience creation. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Thanks a lot, Steve. Hi, everyone. My name is Charlie. I work in product on the Avatar team at Roblox, and I've been at Roblox for about 3 years.
And my name is Faraz. I'm an engineering manager on the Avatar team at Roblox. I have been at Roblox for the last 7 years.
Awesome. So Steve just went through what it looks like to create an avatar in its studio, in a DCC, and all the process that goes into putting that onto Marketplace and onto the platform. Today, Faraz and I are here to talk to you about a new way to create avatars, and that's through in-experience creation. Now, in-experience creation is a really exciting evolution on Roblox. What we're doing with this is empowering you, our developer community, to unlock user creativity all from within an experience. So what that means is you provide a base mesh, and users can edit the texture and the mesh of that body. Once they're ready to submit it, it will go through the same validation and moderation systems that any marketplace content goes through today and create a personal copy that they can use across the platform, just like any other body. With this, it basically expands the creative potential of the platform massively, and we're really relying on you, our developers, to build those creation experiences. Faraz is going to go into some detail around what these APIs look like, how you implement them. But before that, I'm going to show you both what the user experience of this looks like, and then how the developer experience works to enable this within your experience through Creator Dashboard. So first up, the user experience. In this video, you can see the users entering an experience called Robot Avatar Creator. It's important to note that you as developer own the creation UI. You're just using these APIs. So these are just examples of what it could look like. In this video, first you'll see the user, they want to change the color of the arms, of the legs. This is all using editable texture. Next, they can choose a decal, they can drag it around, they can expand it, they rotate it. Once they get it to a spot they like, they place it. And now let's talk about editing the mesh. Here you can see they're changing the shape of the eyes, they can make the jaw stronger, the torso thicker, the calves bigger, the shoulders, maybe beef them up a little bit. They get to a spot that they like, they hit submit, and then they see what looks a lot like a purchase prompt, except they can name it, they add a description, and then if they scroll down, they can see the individual body parts that come as part of this body. Now they make the purchase, and this is going through validation and our same moderation systems in the background, but to the user, it feels a lot like making a purchase within an experience. Now I'm going to exit the experience and go back to my inventory, and you can see when I go to my bodies, the red-blue robot shows up there and can be used across the platform. Now importantly, these are not for sale in the marketplace. It's just creating a personal copy for the user, but it has the same permissions that any other body does that they would acquire on the marketplace. Cool. So that's the user experience. What does it look like for you as a developer? How do you incorporate this into your experience in the first place? It all starts in Creator Dashboard. So through the Creator Dashboard, we're introducing a concept called the Avatar Creation Token. This basically provides two key things. One, making sure that you're verified as a developer to enable creation from within your experience. We're using a lot of the same stuff that right now you need to use to list things on the marketplace. That means ID verification and being a premium user. The second thing is inputting metadata. So we're starting with bodies, so you'd select the asset or bundle type being a body, and then you'd also set a price. Similar to listing things on the marketplace, this would have a price floor. It's an independent price floor, so it's not going to be the same as a price floor for a body on marketplace, but it is going to mimic that behavior by being able to set either a set amount above the price floor along with an optional minimum that you never want it to go down below. So how does this monetize? You pay for a token initially to enable creation. There's an advance that's recoupable, and there's a fee that's a flat cost you would pay to enable this creation, just like listing things on the marketplace. As I mentioned, there's this concept of the independent price floor here, where you can set the price anywhere above that, or also at a minimum that you want to make sure it never drops below in case the price floor goes below a certain amount. The rev share here, it mirrors what a purchase of an asset within an experience looks like, so we're not changing anything about that and giving back the majority of that to you, our developers, when a user purchases one of these in-experience created bodies. And lastly, each one of these come with attribution. So that means that every time some user creates a body from within your experience, it's tagged with your experience. So say I create a body in Faraz's experience and then go play any other experience on the platform. Another user likes that body. They're curious about where I got it from. They can inspect it, and in the outfit details for that body, they would see a link back to Faraz's experience. They'd be able to click in through that, create a body that looks like that on their own through Faraz's experience. Lastly, moderation and safety. So with great power comes great responsibility. We need to make sure that with this creativity that we're unlocking, they're still putting safety at the forefront of our platform. That means that every single body goes through our same moderation systems, along with making sure that it's platform compliant content. It's really important that with this, as users are creating these things, because they're going to be able to transport across the platform using them, they need to hit the same safety standards that the rest of the content on our platform does. Now, I'm going to hand it off to Faraz to explain a little more detail how these APIs actually work and how you can implement in-experience creation within your experience.
Thank you, Charlie. So in order to enable in-experience creation of avatars in Roblox, we are introducing 3 new API surface areas. First one is wrap deformer and editable mesh. Second one is editable image. And then the third one is prompt create avatar async. Let's talk about the wrap deformer and editable mesh first. So what is a wrap deformer? Wrap deformer is a new instance that we are providing. This essentially simplifies editing of the underlying mesh associated with a body part. The way it works is that as developers, you would edit the cage that is associated with a certain body part. Based on the cage deformation, the underlying mesh would automatically adjust. So you won't need to worry about if the mesh and the cage are in sync. That gets handled under the hood automatically. Let's take a look at this example here. We have a function here called deform body part. It takes in a mesh part, that is the body part that is going to be deformed, takes in a control point center, a control point radius, which defines the area that is identified that we are going to do this deformation in, and also a control point deformation, which is the amount of deformation that is going to be applied to that section of the body part. We first find the wrap target and get the cage mesh ID. Basically, now that we have access to the cage, we would then create a wrap deformer instance, parent this wrap deformer under the mesh part. We have the cage mesh ID. We pass this into a new function that we are providing called create editable mesh async. This gets access to the cage mesh as an editable mesh. So within this editable mesh, we can call a function that is find vertices within sphere. This basically, we pass in a control point center and a radius. This forms a sphere, and within this sphere, we can have access to all the different individual vertices within the sphere. We can then call a function called set position on each individual vertex that basically changes the position of these vertices on the cage. That's it, we are done. And then based on this deformation that happens on the cage, the underlying mesh would automatically adjust. Next, we are going to look at editable image. So through editable image, we get access to the texture of the mesh part. So in this example, we have a function called apply sticker that basically adds a sticker onto a certain body part on the avatar. We pass in a mesh part, which is the body part, to this function. We also pass in a texture coordinate, which is basically a vector 2D. This is the position of where the sticker is going to get applied in texture space. And a texture ID, which is basically the sticker ID. So first, we would create an editable image async. which basically gives us the editable image for the texture of the body part. We simply parent it under the mesh part. Then we create another editable image for this sticker. We pass in sticker ID into this. Now we have two editable images. We call basically draw image on the editable image of the texture of the body part, and we pass in the editable image of the sticker that basically applies the sticker in the appropriate position that is passed. And you can see an example of this happening on the right side here. So once we go through all the different body parts and the player has adjusted their avatar, like the textures, their meshes, everything according to what they like, how can the player then publish this avatar to their inventory? For this, we are adding a new API called Prompt Create Avatar Async. This API takes in a player, which is basically the player object, the player that is going to publish this avatar to their inventory. It takes in a token ID. That's the stuff that Charlie just talked about. This is to define the price on this body that is going to be purchased by the player. And they also pass in a humanoid description to this. We recently added new functionalities to humanoid description to not only work with asset IDs as it was using before. Now humanoid description can also support instances as well. So I want you to take a look at the middle picture that we have here. We have an example humanoid description here, and we have a bunch of body part descriptions parented underneath this humanoid description. So we are going to use the new functionality of the humanoid description and basically assign the instance property on body part position to individual body parts that we have. At the top of this image, we have an example of this. We have a left arm. Under the left arm, we have a left hand, a left lower arm, left upper arm, and then the left hand, which is a mesh part, has a wrap deformer, editable image, and editable mesh. That is basically set up as we talked through over the last two slides. So this is basically set up for all the different body parts within the avatar. We call Prompt Create Avatar Async, and then the prompt on the right side gets shown to the player. The player can then go and change the name of this avatar that they are creating, change the description, and press the purchase button at the bottom of the prompt. This basically invokes our UGC validation, trust and safety, and as long as this avatar is good, it gets added to the player's inventory. They can either go to the app avatar editor, equip it on their avatar, or you as developers can provide tooling within your experiences through avatar editor service, letting players equip these avatars on the platform right then and there.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Faraz. So we're starting with bodies, but really the future of this is so much bigger than just bodies. So I want to talk through three things of what we see for the near future of in-experience creation. First up is kit bashing. So you saw in the example, sort of pulling individual muscles using the wrap deformer, you can sort of make, say, the shoulders or neck larger. But what if you could say in the future, you have a jacket mesh and you have spikes, and combining those two together to give you spiked shoulders on a jacket. We want to enable this via kit bashing. So that means basically combining multiple meshes together to create a single mesh that then the user can publish to create really unique looking combinations of meshes. Second up, not just stopping at bodies, but any kind of accessories or clothing that you can put on the marketplace today. Eventually, we want these to be able to be created in experience. So you can imagine a scenario where maybe you have a t-shirt that you're allowing your players to put a pattern of decals on, or even having, changing the background color, making it short sleeve to long sleeve. And not just stopping at that, but also accessories, so hair or hats or other things that users will be able to edit the mesh and the texture of to create custom content for themselves to use across the platform. And then last is combining our bulk shopping API with multiple item creation. So you can imagine a future once we have multiple types of accessories and clothing that you can make within an experience. Say you want to make a punk rock avatar, so you have a body and you get the proportions just right, and you get the jawline and the ear and the hair all looking great. But now there's also maybe a leather jacket and some chucks you want to buy and some jeans that already exist on the marketplace. So you as a developer, rather than having to give the user multiple different purchase and creation modals, our dream is that we basically have a single modal that has the multiple creations, the multiple purchases, and the user basically just hit submit and get this full character, one click, purchase it all. In the background, we would do all that validation, that moderation, to make sure that the user gets exactly what they're expecting, and then they can go back into their inventory and see that fully baked character with the net new creations, along with the accessories and clothing that they purchased from the marketplace. We're really excited about this. It really represents kind of the first time on Roblox where users across any platform that Roblox is supported on can create persistent content and then use that across the platform. And really having that end-to-end experience of creating things from within a single experience that can last and persist throughout the entire platform is a really exciting future that we're looking forward to building towards. Really appreciate your time today. We have a couple minutes now to take some Q&A if folks have questions. And thank you so much for listening to our talk.
Hello, my name is Kyra. I'm a UGC creator. I'm looking to get into avatar creation. I was just wondering if you have any specific tools or tricks that you use for retopology and rigging and skinning. Because it's terrible. We all know that.
It is, and unfortunately, as far as I know, there's no single button off-the-shelf program that will actually do retopologizing for you.
No.
I know that there's a lot of pieces of software that are trying to get there, but essentially, I don't really want to name specific pieces of software, but I think Maya, Blender, they have tools that are pretty decent, but it's time-consuming. The thing I would suggest is just learn the tricks of those tools. Maya has a lot of hidden abilities to make retopologizing faster. If you're using Maya, I would look into that, and I'm sure Blender's got the same.
Do you use Quad Draw on Maya?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a bunch of hidden little techniques that will actually allow you to create a loop, or say around an arm, and then select the edge and actually have the entire loop replicate all down the arm. It's pretty good. It's really fast. You might have to do a little cleanup, but that's what I would suggest for retopologizing.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, thank you. I have a few questions, if I'm able to. So about the editable image feature, the way I see it, it could be used also in environment, like in Counter-Strike, where you leave a spray or decals around the world. So that's in mind as well for that feature, right? Do the object needs to have UVs and texture to work with, or we can do it in parts as well in the environment?
The answer is yes to your first question. And so yeah, editable image right now, the way it is defined is that it works on meshes directly.
Correct.
So it needs UVs, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Is there a way, or can the user create persistent assets? Do we always need to charge? This will be something that if they want to take the asset outside of the game in an avatar or any other shape, is there a price fix, or can we offer that to the user without charging?
Yeah, so the user would have to pay for it because we need to be conscious of basically not cannibalizing existing things on the marketplace by creating this sort of loophole to get free content. That said, we do imagine a future where as a developer, if there are, say, users who hit certain achievements, where you could subsidize the cost of that and offer users it for free if you subsidize the cost of that item. Okay.
Yeah, like limited use UUC or something like that.
Exactly.
And my last question will be about the deformer. Are there other deformers coming to Studio? Is there a chance 3D artists can access these deformers without having to code them?
So Wrap Deformer is the first one that we are adding. We have thought about a deformer framework for the future. But yeah, Wrap Deformer is going to be the first one.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you.
Hey, my name is Caleb, or Blackout Dev on Roblox. I'm a 3D environment artist as well as a UGC creator. I had very similar questions to him, but I wanted to add on to kind of what he was asking. And with the sticker technology, is that stuff also PBR capable, or is it still just kind of like a color map that you project on like a decal?
Yeah, eventually you can add stickers that have PBR as well. The first version of this is going to have only color maps.
Okay, very cool.
Cool, thanks.
Hi, first of all, thanks for the speech. I'm Fire Attack, UGC creator and game founder on Roblox. So my question is like, recently there has been like many limitations for avatar creation. Is there going to be like more relaxed avatar creation in the future, like for the avatar scaling the size of the different body parts? So yeah, is that going to be more relaxed in the future?
So I think you're talking about UGC validation, right? That
yeah.
Yeah. The reason UGC validation exists is to make sure like the avatars that we have on the platform are as much as possible uniform, so that if developers have experiences that are supposed to work with certain size of the avatars, like they don't have to worry about a lot of different use cases, like it's more minimal for them. So we want to have that consistency for the platform avatars to support the developers that create these.
As far as I know, like there's a feature for that as well, like avatar scaling, like.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also a separate avatar project on avatar settings to let developers basically set specific things for their experience that's sort of beyond avatar scaling that should help with that some. But I think it's also, I mean, as Faraz was saying, important that we maintain limits so that people can't enter experiences with very unexpected avatars from the developer point of view.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
I actually have a second question.
Sure.
Is it on the near future roadmap to eventually expand this to layered clothing as well?
In experience creation?
Yeah, create fashion and experience.
Yes.
Yes.
Also, I'm going to ask a question that a lot of UGC creators want to know. Are we ever going to get layered clothing shoe access?
Yes.
Yes, hopefully.
The answer is definitely
yeah.
Yes, eventually? Or yes, soon?
yes.
We're pushing for it soon.
Yeah.
No
Perfect.
promises, but we would love to have shoes be UGC-able soon.
It's definitely on our radar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hi. I guess like two quick questions. One is when importing like a new avatar, like case point, like players like, oh, we love your character, we want to play it in other games or something. Mm-hmm. A problem I ran into was I didn't really use Blender too often, so when I imported the mesh, I don't know how to describe, but the orientation was wrong. So when you rigged it and set it up, you're like, okay, it was R15 model. They did the sideways walk, kind of weird demorphation, because it was just. Is there like any way, I guess, to check for that before you get into the rigging process to some degree?
The thing I would suggest is starting with one of our template files.
Gotcha.
If you start with that, at least you'll know that the orientations and everything are set up correctly, and you'll have the right naming conventions, things like that.
Gotcha.
I don't know if you're aware of those, but if you go to our document site, there's some pretty good documentation on how to do the avatar creation. But then also you can find a whole bunch of template files.
Yeah, just reference that basically. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I guess one other thing is just, will there ever be a chance to incorporate neon, the texture itself, into a UGC item? I don't know if that's I don't know how it works. I guess know that like in studio, it's like, oh, make it neon, but yeah.
We've been talking about that for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I can't give you a definitive answer on when that's going to happen.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hi, I saw that you guys are offering tools for editing the decals in the model and also editing the mesh itself. Are there any plans for painting textures directly, like you would do in Substance Painter, maybe just for diffuse maps, color maps?
So painting textures directly onto the
The avatar.
Yes, I mean this is basically it, unless I'm misunderstanding your.
Oh, like using a brush and painting on the avatar, not.
Yes.
Oh, like, yeah.
Yeah, so like this example was a sticker example, but you can definitely use like a paintbrush. Like as you move this sticker around, like this sticker can also be like a brush. Like you can have like many different brushes. Like it's at the end, it's going to be up to the developers of the experiences to like create their own paintbrushes the way they want. But through the editable image, that functionality is definitely available.
I imagine that developers will have to add like transparency to the brush or like opacity, I mean, to add more, I don't know how to explain, like more layers to the painting that you do.
Yes, and that is supported as well through editable image API.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks.
Hello, I'm back again. I had a follow-up question relating to stickers.
Yeah.
So will those be a separate like asset that I could custom make and then monetize as well, or will that just be something that's like per experience that we can give players to edit our stuff with?
100%. It's up to you. Like you can create like many different stickers. Like I can imagine you would have like 10 stickers that are free, 10 stickers that players have to pay for. It's totally up to you to like how to monetize that.
Mm-hmm. And would they be sold in experience or on the marketplace?
So the stickers like would be an experience-only thing, right? So if you are a developer that is making an avatar creation experience, right? You have these stickers for your experience that players can use to decorate their avatars.
Okay, so they'd be purchased by like Game Pass or something.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool. That was it.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. All right. Well, if you don't have any more questions, thank you so much for coming to talk. Thanks so much for the questions, and really appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.